I've found I don't doom scroll for the reasons people often think of. For me, it's not an issue of discipline or willpower or even time management. I know this because we don't want to doom scroll, and yet we still do it. So obviously, if we are doing something that we don't want to do, there has to be a reason. And I think that reason is we are starving for physical and mental energy. In all of the times in my life when I wasted the most time or made poor choices, I was running myself ragged. I was exhausted when I woke up, exhausted when I went to work, exhausted when I got home, and exhausted when I went to bed. When I managed my energy well, I made better choices. I didn't eat junk food, I got enough sleep, and I didn't get sucked into the whirlpool of Instagram reels. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things that helped me get here, because it's been a process, especially for someone who likes to push really hard on their projects. After realizing that energy was causing me to make poor choices and waste time scrolling, I had to dislodge a very powerful misconception. That misconception is that if I take time to recharge, I won't have enough time for all the responsibilities I have to do. Now, there are a few rare cases where that is accurate, but for the most part, it's false. Here's why. If you learn to manage your energy properly, first, you'll get way more done because you're functioning at a much higher capacity. The second thing you'll find is you won't be nearly as susceptible to wasting time on multiple fronts. Someone who has more energy is less likely to be distracted. They have higher attention spans, and they also just make better decisions. This means that there are less mistakes and much less wasted time. Now, don't worry, I'm not just going to tell you to sleep more. There are a lot of ways that we can recharge our mental batteries other than sleep, although that's a really big one. So here are a few that I live by, and the best part is I didn't have to overhaul my life to fit these in. Energy pockets. The first thing that I did was build energy pockets into my day. So think of maybe a video game where your character takes a little detour, a little side path, and gets a power up, or finds a bubble that increases their health. That's kind of how I like to think about it. So I try to create these little activities that recharge me and scatter them throughout my day. Now, for something to fall into this category, it has to fit two requirements. It cannot involve technology, and it has to be something that I cannot rush or hurry. Here are a few examples. Watching the sunrise, making and drinking tea, reading, meditating, playing an instrument. There are lots of ways to do this. These are just a few that fit easily into my day. Now, you may be asking, how does this help with energy? So first of all, it slows you down. And this is one of the most important parts of energy management, which is knowing when to increase and when to decrease your energy output. Most of us just go full throttle all the time, no matter what we're doing, which simply isn't necessary or efficient. The second thing that this does is it lets my mind take a break and recharge. This is why technology cannot be a part of the process, because technology automatically speeds up your brain. Now, if you decide not to do this, your brain will do a version of it for you, and it's called distractions, and they are incredibly inefficient. So if you don't take these breaks naturally and productively, your brain will kind of force them on you in ways that aren't helpful. The next way I manage my energy is with an exercise. As I mentioned earlier, the times in my life when I wasted the most time and just made poor choices was when I was frantically overworked. If I could go back and give myself some advice right in the dead center of all of that, here's what I would tell myself to do. Make a responsibility list. A responsibility list is exactly what it sounds like. Take an hour or however long and write down every single responsibility that you have. You may want to split these up into different categories. For me, I wrote down just one list of all of the responsibilities I have, specifically with work. The first thing I found is it's incredibly cathartic to write down everything that you personally are responsible for. But besides that, it also zooms you out and lets you see how you're spending your time and also what you think are genuinely your responsibilities. Now, that in and of itself is illuminating, but we want to take it one step further. We want to look over this list and ask ourselves, what are the 3 most important things on this list? Another way to put it is, what are the 3 things that create the most disproportionate amount of return for the time invested. Trust me, identifying these 3 most important things is irritating, to say the least. It's really hard to narrow it down that far, but it's remarkably eye-opening. A very easy example is I realized that I was spending about 50 to 60% of my energy on 5 to 6 different tasks or responsibilities that only yielded about 20% of my return. Then I would focus on the part that was actually the most important. But at that point, I didn't have full capacity. I was already depleted of energy. So I'd procrastinate, or I'd distract myself, or do something else. And once I fixed that, I noticed a massive difference in how I used specifically my downtime, but also how much more focused I was. Energy pockets are more about daily margin, and the responsibility list is more of a once in a while type of thing. I used both of these to slowly escape the crisis mode that I was in, where everything was an emergency, everything was urgent, it had to be done. It amazed me how much easier it was to make good decisions about how I spent my time, because I started doing what was important to me, and I had energy for it. That right there just solves so much. Thankfully, there are many, many ways to do this, so feel free to create your own. But if you want to jump past that kind of trial period and experimentation phase, you can check out this newsletter up here where I expand on these ideas and also cover a few other very practical options about how to manage your energy.